everyone, my name is Iyana and I'm back with a new story. It's called Cinderella and the Lost Mice. So let's begin. The stars twinkled in the clear night sky as the prince twirled Cinderella outside to dance. "Are you cold, my dear?" the prince asked his princess. "Just a bit, but..." Smiling, the prince reached out for a box he had hidden under the bench. Inside was a beautiful winter coat. "Oh, it's simply lovely!" Cinderella exclaimed. "Thank you." The next morning, Cinderella showed her coat to Susie the mouse. "Isn't the prince kind to me?" she said. "Nicer, nicer," Susie nodded and nuzzled the warm coat. Cinderella did not notice that Susie had just come in from the cold. The tiny mouse was shivering, even though the room was warm. Just then, Gus and Zack scampered up onto Cinderella's dressing table. "Cinderella, Cinderella," they chattered. Cinderella didn't hear them as she rushed off to meet the prince. She didn't know that they were cold too. Soon several more cold and shivering mice entered the room. They sat in front of the fire until their teeth stopped chattering. The poor mice had spent the night in the freezing attic. They hoped Cinderella would let them stay in her warm room. But there was one problem. "Shoo! Shoo!" The cruel housekeeper barged into the room and began chasing the mice. "You're making the whole castle dirty," she shouted. "I should have the gardener haul you away." She was the reason the mice were cold. They stayed in the attic to hide from her. The mice scrambled back into the chilly attic, not knowing where else to go. "Cinderella," Gus sighed. They needed her help. Suddenly, wham! The gardener slammed cages over the mice and scooped them up. "Take them outside!" shrieked the housekeeper. "Take them far enough that they never return." Of course, Cinderella had no idea what had happened as she and the prince strolled around the castle grounds. "Let's go to the stables," Cinderella said suddenly. "We can say hello to the horses." "And maybe take a ride?" the prince asked hopefully. "Lovely idea," Cinderella replied. Soon Cinderella and the prince were riding through the countryside near the castle. They saw the gardener doing something in one of the fields. "Hello!" shouted the prince. "It's too cold to be working outside." But the gardener didn't seem to hear the prince. When the prince and princess returned to the stables, the prince asked, "Do you think the gardener was acting oddly?" "Perhaps he was distracted," Cinderella replied thoughtfully. "It must be hard to do much gardening when the ground is frozen." But the gardener was not distracted about gardening. He was worried about the mice. He knew that they would freeze in the fields. "All right," he said to his helpers. "Now don't mention this to the housekeeper. But I want to take these poor mice to the stables." So they took the grateful mice to their new home and even fed them. The mice nestled together in the barn, but as night approached, they just got colder. Finally, the horses allowed them to snuggle up in their mane to keep warm. "Tassa nicer," Gus said sleepily. Meanwhile, Cinderella was beginning to worry. Where were her little friends? Jack and Gus, she thought suddenly. They wanted to talk to me this morning, but I left in a rush to see the prince. I wonder if they needed to tell me something. Cinderella was searching the palace, trying to find her friends, when she ran into the prince. Well, hello, the prince asked cheerfully. Are you looking for the same person I am? Person? Asked Cinderella. Why, no, I'm looking for the mice. Ah, said the prince, and I'm looking for the housekeeper, who apparently threw them out of the castle today. She said they were dirty. Dirty? Oh no, Cinderella cried. They're not dirty, and besides, they'll freeze outside. Don't worry, my dear. The mice have found a new friend. The prince then told Cinderella about the gardener and what he had done. Together, Cinderella and the prince went to the stables, where they found and thanked the gardener. Cinderella awakened the mice who were snuggled comfortably in the horses' manes. Cinderella, Cinderella, the mice shouted happily. A few nights later, there was a grand ball, with the gardener as the guest of honor. The cruel housekeeper was now peeling potatoes in the kitchen. She would never be bothering the mice again. Meanwhile, the mice celebrated with a banquet of their own, and for the horses, they had extra apples all around. The end. Hope you enjoyed the story. I'll be back with a new story next time. Bye.